Joining us now is Russia expert Ariel Cohen, a senior fellow with the Atlantic Council and former Rubio senior advisor Alex Conant. Thanks, guys, both for being here. Alex, is this, I mean, we've already been through one reset of the relationship with Russia. There's been a lot of news flow this week about, kind of an arms race that might be starting to happen here. So how would you analyze the situation?
Well, really, we've been through two resets. I mean, remember President George W. Bush said he looked into the eyes of Vladimir Putin and saw his soul. And then obviously Obama and Clinton tried to do the Russian reset, which failed. So President-elect Trump is inheriting a mess of a relationship with Russia and with Vladimir Putin specifically. Two presidents in a row have tried and failed to negotiate with him to improve relations with Russia. And so I think Trump needs to be eyes wide open about the challenges that exist with Russia, that Putin is a tyrant, that Putin is acting aggressively, and that Putin does not have the U.S.'s national interests in mind when he's talking about policy changes. So I know that people in the United States Senate, including my former boss, Marco Rubio, take Vladimir Putin very seriously and want to make sure that that Trump and the people that Trump nominates to his cabinet similarly take him very seriously.
Ariel, it's not clear that that's exactly how this is shaping up at this point, especially with the selection of Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State. So would you agree with Alex that the stance needs to become more muscular, or is it simply a wait and see?
I think there's a consensus, at least among the Republicans, that the United States needs nuclear modernization, and that's what President-elect Trump said. We neglected our nuclear weapons. We got a lot of fatigue in people and materiel after the two wars in the Middle East. Clearly, a massive rejuvenation of both conventional and non-conventional capabilities is necessary. But I just came back from Moscow a couple of weeks ago, and there's an eager commitment to try and open a new page. I think Alex is right.
Wait, Ariel, whose commitment? Is it Russia's commitment to open a new page, or the U.S.'s?
No, Russia's commitment, Russia's desire. And actually, in today's presser, Putin said that we were the only ones, Russians were the only ones who believed that Trump would win. And a lot of Americans didn't, clearly.
But what you're saying about the need for modernization of our arms, does that imply a threat to Russia? Do the Russians perceive it that way?
The Russians are more concerned about our anti-ballistic missile defense. They were hammering about the need for us to stop ballistic missile defense, which I don't think Trump ever said he's going to do that, and I don't think he will. The other thing we need to remember that Trump, as the author of The Art of the Deal, would look at the situation with Russia and say, hey, you want X, Y, Z, you want recognition of the Crimea, you want to stop the war in Ukraine. What are you going to give me, Trump, in exchange? And unless and until we hear the clear quid pro quo that Mr. Putin is willing to offer, I think all this discussion about how we're going to all of a sudden reset the relations is moot.
Alex, you are the D.C. insider. How do you think these new developments are going to go down within Trump's own Republican Party?
Well, I think clearly there's conflict within the Republican Party about how best to approach Russia. And you saw this play out during the primary campaign, where other candidates, including my former boss, Marco Rubio, took a very strong stance against Vladimir Putin, and Trump was more open-minded about Vladimir Putin. But it's not just how U.S. and Russia relations play out. I've traveled extensively throughout Eastern Europe, and I can tell you Eastern Europe is very worried about what a new opening in U.S.-Russia relations would mean. Does that mean that Russia gets to keep parts of Crimea? Does it get to keep parts of Georgia that are currently occupied? And I can tell you Senate Republicans care very strongly about Georgia, about Ukraine, and about the NATO relationship.
Let me ask you this, though. So you mentioned that Trump's stance was at odds with basically the entire GOP field, but he won. So did he win in spite of being at odds with their thinking about Russia, or was that partly because of it?
Well, I don't think he won because of Russia one way or the other. I think he won because he was able to connect with white working class voters in a way that other candidates weren't able to do. And he was able to, talk about draining the swamp in a way that other candidates weren't able to do. I think that was the core of his appeal. But now he's president-elect. Now he has to govern. And now he has to have a foreign policy. But the executive alone does not determine U.S. foreign policy. The Senate has a big role in that to play. Yeah. And that's where the oversight comes into play.
All right, guys, thank you this morning. Alex Cohn and Ariel Cohen talking about our potentially new relationship with Russia.
Thank you.